We are here today. We're streaming a live episode of the Classy Career Girl podcast. So I'm excited to dive in. We are talking about fear and getting started with your goals and with your career dreams and entrepreneurship dreams. I know that there's a lot of times a fear of failure of moving forward. So we're going to talk about your path to success and kind of how to conquer those fears that might be holding you back from achieving your career and business goals this year. So if you have, and I hear this a lot, like a lot of fear or self-doubt kind of holding you back from pursuing, maybe you want to start a coaching business, or maybe you want to start a catering business, or whatever type of business you want to start, or maybe you just want to do something different with your career, with your life, maybe job search, do something, try a new industry, whatever it is, there's going to be some fear. You're going to be scared, right? When it comes to taking action towards success. So I want to talk about that today because I have definitely been there. So let's be honest, anytime you're making any sort of career change, launching your dream career, launching your dream business, there's going to be that fear. There's going to be things that scare you. And I totally get that. So I'll never forget when I first wrote my first blog post, and this was back in 2011. March of 2011 is when Classy Career Girl started. I wrote my first blog post, and for the first 6 months, I did not put my picture on my blog. I did not put my name on my blog. It was called Classy Career Girl. My name wasn't there. My face wasn't there. I was super scared of anyone finding out. So I was an anonymous blogger for 6 months and scared to put myself out there. I didn't want my boss to know because I worked for a consulting company. I didn't want my boss to know. I was super scared about that. I didn't want my neighbors to know. I didn't even want my family to know. Like, very few people even knew I had this blog that I was just doing in my own spare time. And so if you feel the same way, you have these like bigger, that you have this like bigger purpose and these big dreams and these big goals, but it's like, how do I start? I'm just so scared to even tell people and put myself out there. So I want to share with you what happened when I finally, after those 6 months, I finally got the courage up to say, you know what, this is my dream. This is my goal. This is my purpose. This is what I want to do with my life. I'm not gonna keep hiding. This is it. This is what I want to do long term for my career. And I really, through those 6 months, I really figured that out. And I knew this is what I wanted to do long term and what my vision was. And so after those 6 months, my husband took a picture of me. I was standing next to our wall, and he, had his camera, took a picture. So I had I think it was even just a black and white. It was a terrible photo, but I put that on my blog. I did a blog post and I said, this is my name. This is who I am. This is where I went to college. This is where I work. I just kind of put it all out there, and it felt so good to kind of get over that fear and just say, this is me, and I'm the Classy Career Girl. So here's what happened when I finally did that. It was within like a week later, I got an email from someone to speak at their university, and this was Wake Forest University. I was in San Diego, so someone across the country asked me to come speak to their college women's group, just because I was now this real person. She was reading my blog, and then when I became a real person to her, she reached out to me and said, we want to speak. And so that's where this all really started. I started speaking all over at universities and colleges, at women's associations in San Diego, and then universities all over the US started to be able to email me and contact me because I was a person that could actually speak to their groups. And then eventually the big one, the most exciting one of all, was in 2014 when I got an email from someone in Brazil, and they flew me out to speak at this leadership forum right after I had my first daughter. And they flew my husband out, and they flew my baby out and everything. And so all because I was able to kind of get over that fear, even though it was very scary. My boss also saw me featured in an article on LinkedIn, and he became my biggest cheerleader with my business. He helped me change up my work arrangements because I wanted to learn more about HR. I was in finance, but I knew I wanted to get more into HR and training and development. So he kind of helped me change up my work arrangements so I could learn more, study more, make time for my big dream. Another one of my bosses, we have a lot of bosses there, she found me. She was on vacation, and she found me because I was also starting to get featured in magazines just from being consistent with my blog. So I wasn't even doing PR or reaching out. They were coming directly to me. And I was on People's Style Watch magazine. And so my boss found me while she was on vacation. She was sitting by the pool, reading a magazine, popped open. There's me, my picture with a quote about like what to wear to work or something like that. What Classy Career Girl says that you should wear to work. And she came back and told me, hey, Anna, I saw you in the magazine. Super impressed. Once again, like all that fear I had of what if my bosses find out? And it ended up, they were just super, super excited for me and pumped for me and excited about what I was doing in my nights and weekends, because I was still working very hard at my day job. So they knew it wasn't impacting the work I was doing because I was showing up, I was giving it all my work. But when I left that day job, I put on my entrepreneurship hat and I worked my butt off in the nights and weekends. And so they knew it wasn't affecting my day job because I was still performing really well. So they never would have known I was also running this other thing on the other side. And then another thing I was super scared of was actually the time when it came to actually resign from my day job. So August 1st, 2014, I was 6 weeks after maternity leave. So 6 weeks after my baby was born. I was supposed to go back on August 1st. And instead I called up HR and I said, I'm not coming back. And I was so nervous about that conversation. And she actually on the phone, she said, I'm actually jealous of you that you're doing this. And it was very surprising because I was so nervous about that conversation. And she said, wow, I wish I could do something like this. And the last example I have is I saw my former coworker. This had to be maybe 6-7 years later. And I saw him at this church we were going to, and we randomly ran into each other. I hadn't seen him that entire time since I quit the day job. And he said, wow, you did it. That must be really nice to have made your dream actually happen. So another thing, I would be super scared of any of my coworkers knowing what I was doing on my side, and like hearing later, the years later, like that was impressive to them that I actually did it, and made it happen, quit my day job, made the dream happen. So all that because I got over the fear and moved forward. So what I have learned, this is a big one. It's taken me years to learn, but it doesn't matter what other people think of the choices that you're making in your business or your life. And my husband and I, we've made some pretty big decisions in our lives. In 2014, I quit my day job, and then a few months later, my husband quit his day job as well. So we run our business together and our family and run the family, and now the homeschool together, run the business together. So we kind of take an unconventional route. And if you're new to the podcast, we've been traveling around Europe now since last July. So we're almost a year in. So we do these fun little leaps forward that are very scary. There's a lot of fear associated with these things that we do in our lives, like quitting our day jobs and traveling around Europe with 3 kids and homeschooling when we know nothing about it. But we have no regrets about these leaps that we've made forward. And like, it gets easier to make these leaps, and it gets easier to face your fears and do these things that are scary when you know that you're going towards your long-term vision and your long-term dream, and you're living out, your full potential and purpose, and you're using your strengths as well too, and you're helping people and you're serving people. So all those things kind of factor in. I know, that the bigger mission is to be able to help people too, and I'm able to do that even though I'm making these scary leaps full of fear as well. So there's always something new and exciting around the corner. So you got to chase after those fears. So a couple things that's the backstory. A couple things I want to share with you today about fear. If you're facing this, if it's kind of holding you back from pressing go live, like I just did on Facebook, or, putting your content out there. Just remember, fear is natural, but it doesn't have to control your actions. So if you have fear, it's totally normal. We all do. Use it to improve, use it to study, use it to prepare. So that speech I mentioned that I gave in Brazil, I'm an introvert, so speaking in front of people can be in the past very, very scary for me, full of lots of fear. I was very nervous. I was shaking before I went on. But the good nerves make you feel uncomfortable, but then take the actions to prepare. So even though I was so scared, had so much fear, so nervous, I spent a lot of time preparing for that speech so that I could give my best at that speech. So just know that it's natural, but we don't have to let it stop us. We can kind of work through it, improve, study, practice, prepare, and we'll get through it. The second thing is take action. Even when you're afraid, it's crucial for growth because, like I said, it gets easier the more that you do it. So your steps are going to be clear. The more actions you take, if you kind of embraced failure, if you learn it, if we all fail. I've had many failures, many failures over the years, but you learned from it. So even like putting out a new product, no one buys. Okay, that's a failure, but what can we learn about it? How can we change up our messaging? Maybe we need to change the pricing. Maybe we need to change the name. I just did this. I sold something and it flopped and I changed everything and came back and launched it again and it like exploded. It was incredible. So we have to embrace the fear of failure because fear is actually good. It can help you pivot and improve and change and improve as an entrepreneur. So also just knowing they're headed towards your ultimate vision. So it can be scary to go through a career change, start a new business, but like you're working hard, but you know what you're working hard for. So you're putting yourself out there, you're doing these hard things like you've never done before, but you know that you're headed towards that ultimate end goal. So that's why 6 months in of anonymous blogger, Classy Career Girl, I was able to say, hey, I'm Anna Runyon. This is who I am. This is what, where I'm from. Like you can go back and read that post as well. I'll have to dig it out. But that's what allowed me to put myself out there and say, this is me. And I'm not afraid anymore. And that's what allowed me to do that is knowing my vision, knowing that 10, 15 years, I knew I had a plan. I knew I was going to do this full time. I knew this was going to be my long-term career is Classy Career Girl, and it is. The last thing that I want to tell you is to identify one fear, something that's like holding you back right now, and commit to taking one small step today to overcome that fear. So if you're scared to go live on Facebook, do some research about it. Just start to prepare your outline. Start to do one small thing to help you tackle that big fear. Whenever I have any sort of fear, my husband and we will look at that, like the big thing that we're about to do in our lives, the scary leap that we're having. And I'll say like, what are those fears? What we'll journal, walk through them together. What are all the things that are scaring us about doing this crazy thing, that leap that we're about to make? And then we talk about it, like, what is the worst thing that can happen? If we spend the next year in Europe with our 3 girls, like, what is the worst thing that can happen? Trust me, we thought about all the worst things that could happen. And then we thought about all the best things that could happen. If we go for our goals and our dreams, if my husband quits his day job and I quit my day job and we go for our dreams, what is the best that can happen? And is it worth it to go all in? And so often, yes, it is worth it to go all in, because especially when we were both quitting our day jobs, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? Well, we'd both have to go back and get another job. Like, oh, well, like it's not the end of the world. If our business doesn't work back in 2014, if our business didn't work, we'll try it for 3 to 6 months. If it doesn't work, we'll both go get jobs again. It's not the end of the world. Like there's nothing, we can make that leap and it's worth it to go all in, because the best that could happen is we'd be here and have this amazing business and this family and being able to achieve our vision and live the life that we dreamed of and we wanted. It was worth it to go all in. So to close today, fear is real. You're not alone in facing it. Share your fears, talk to someone about it. You can always DM me on Instagram at Classy Career Girl or my Anna Runyon account. Let's conquer them together. The first step towards your dreams, is getting clear of what is holding you back. And you'll finally be able to kind of take that first baby step and kind of move forward. It's going to feel so good when you start to keep going towards that ultimate vision and goal that you have. The other thing that will help you, I would highly recommend downloading our free 90-day planner at Classy Career Girl, because that will help you kind of look back over the last year, kind of see what's working, what's not working. It'll help you plan out like your vision over the next 5 years, like where you want to go, and then create a 90-day plan. When you have a plan, the doing is easy. That's what I always say. So when you have a plan, we can kind of let go of the fear and the fear of failure, the fear of perfectionism. And we say, okay, this is our plan. I'm just going to do this for the next 90 days. I'm just going to take baby steps, and actually having a plan and executing a 90-day plan actually helps you move past those fears. And so that's why ever since like 2012, I've had a 90-day plan, just been executing my 90-day plan. I make another new 90-day plan every quarter, and I just keep taking baby steps. It's not overnight. It's full of lots of baby steps to get there. So go grab that planner. That is at classycareergirl.com/free plan. And those are my tips for you today. Let me know what you think. Share this on Instagram. Share this with someone you think that would help them as well. And I will see you next week.